Alrighty then. So, hi everyone. I'm going to go ahead and start the panel. My name is obviously Paige Shepard. I am theoretically, hypothetically, not a fox, as I'm sure all of you already know. And this is a sequel to the 2023 You Are Not a Museum Piece, Putting Yourself Out There in the Alterhuman Community lecture. You don't need to have seen that one to enjoy this one. Just a preface, it is not a requirement, but that would give you like a little background for some of the stuff we've already touched on in the past that I will not be going over again here. I am a canine psychopomp Folkentera who's been in the community since 2014. You might recognize me from past other con lectures. This is my 6th year lecturing, I believe. And I'm the founder of the Centaurus Festival, the Alterhuman Archive. I own Non-Human National Park. I run around screaming at the top of my lungs about alterhumanity 24/7, 365 days of the week. Chances are you've seen me around, you know? I use he, him pronouns for anyone who doesn't know me. So please, if you're going to, like, mention me in chat, just use he, him. I would appreciate it. And I am happy to be your lecturer this evening. So take a seat, put your feet up, and pull that beverage of choice close because it is gonna be a doozy. Alright, just a quick disclaimer before we fully get into everything. As with all of my panels, this lecture will be recorded, including everything you do and say in the chat and the Q&A. Keep that in mind during the panel. I'll give you a reminder at the end, when we reach the Q&A portion, but, like, just keep it in mind, keep everything PG-13, don't be rude to one another, say hello to YouTube, you know how it goes. I also will not be able to respond to messages in the chat during the course of the lecture. I'll be reading my script. Please post any questions that you end up having in the panel questions chat. Otherwise, I'm not going to see it, and I won't be able to answer it. So just please keep that in mind. So, let's get right into it. What even is community in this context? This isn't a rhetorical question, by the way. I would honestly like all of you to type out your answers to this in the Discord chat and, like, really chew on this pumpkin full of meat while I touch on my own thoughts about it. In my opinion, how do we define a community in a large online subculture like our own? How do we draw the boundaries of what counts and what doesn't count when we exist in these digital landscapes? The short answer is, we don't. Community can be a very literal thing in which we're talking about groups with strict rules and, like, exact website locations, organized hierarchy, but it can also be a really intangible thing. A community is the people you talk with, the people you walk with. Community can be your peers who message you to play Peek together, or community can be a bunch of people in the same room all having different types of very powerful experiences, like we're doing right now here at OtherCon. Community can have boundaries, but to fully understand it, you can't conceptualize it as something that inherently relies on boundaries and clearly defines in-groups and out-groups. Your community is who you sit with around the campfire as much as it's the forums and projects you build to uplift and focus on specific well-established groups. So how do we build something that we can't always touch, can't always see, and can't always define in exacts? To do this, we're going to make a bit of a divide between the two main types of community I'm touching on here. The literal and the intangible. The intangible is just that. You can't really touch it. It's how we interact with one another, the ways we uplift each other, the intra-community interactions that make us feel closer, the ways we support each other. It's like a metaphorical sleepover that we're all having together, where we're staying up way too late and we're giggling while we joke about drawing a mustache or a funny eyebrow on the first person to fall asleep. It's like who we are with each other. The literal is much more physical. It's the actual spaces and projects we make to party hardy all together in. The physical or digital spaces that we make with clear boundaries, rules, hierarchy, other inherent types of organization that we exist together and work together in. It's like a metaphorical box fort that we've created to play in, or a coloring book that we're all painting in together. It's the places that we establish for the purposes of being with each other. To be clear, this is a Venn diagram that in some ways is almost a circle. These are not hard and fast divisions, and these are not meant to be taken as universal truths. We're just using these descriptors to talk about these concepts in depth here. So part 1, building actual, literal community. This side of the community comes in a myriad of forms, from punk zines to outdoor howls to sprawling convention. The only limit to what you can do is your imagination. Do you guys remember that huge list of things you can do from You Are Not a Museum Piece? This is just the tip of the iceberg for the type of things that you personally and individually can do, but the different ways you can be together with other people is even wider. I'm talking potlucks, protests, picnics, trips to the zoo, digital draw-togethers, tabletop roleplay games through Discord, Cards Against Humanity games with your worst enemies. You can do it all. But for the sake of some simplicity in this, we're going to divide the literal side of the community into 2 more main forms. Projects, in which multiple people are coming together to make one or separate things, and groups, in which multiple people are coming together to talk, discuss, hang out, or experience something. So, now you're probably asking, okay, Paige, this sounds all well and good, but where the fuck do we actually start? Both projects and groups start out the same way, with an idea. Once you've got that shit trapped in a bottle with some holes poked through the lid for air, it's time to show it around to friends and community members to see who might want to get involved too. This is what's called an interest check. You summarize your idea in some form of elevator pitch, and then you go around asking people if they want to participate in whatever you've got planned too. This can not only be a good way to gauge how expansive you might need to make your project or group, because prepping something for 100 people is very different from prepping it for 10. But it's also a great opportunity for feedback on the foundation of your idea, and to make any adjustments you need before finalizing things. Here are some secrets for a useful interest check. Make your initial description of the project quick, snappy, and to the point. If people ask follow-up questions, you can go into more detail, but you just want to cover the basics first. Graphics are not required, but they can be fun. Just don't waste too much time on it. If you are spending 3 weeks trying to do a banner for something you've already got ironed out, just post it without the banner. You can work on the banner later. It's not essential. Next, and this is something that I think people fail the most at, post it to where the people who are actually going to be interested in it are. You're not going to get good feedback on a Fictionkin-only project if you post it to a Therian-only group, you know? There are going to be some Fictionkin in there inevitably, but that's not your main target audience. And finally, like we said before, be open to suggestions. People love to give feedback, and feedback can be great for building upon and improving your original idea in ways you had never considered. But also be aware that sometimes well-meaning suggestions you might get aren't going to be useful to you, or they may even detract from what you're trying to do. Don't be afraid to tell people no thanks either. And if people aren't interested in engaging with your idea, it doesn't have to die there. Turn it into a passion project. You can do things solo. Once you've confirmed that there's some type of audience for what you're doing, even if that audience is just yourself, then all you have to do is make it. Step 1, draw a circle. Step 2, draw the rest of the fucking owl. Yeah, it's not as easy as it sounds, and unfortunately, there's no single way to do it. I can't give you guys a roadmap to every possible project or group you may be interested in creating. It's just not realistic. But I can give you the tools for making one up yourself. The easiest approach in my experience is when you take it and you break it down step by step. Let's say you want to make a collaborative community zine. You could break it down into something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this is an example of some way you could break it down. First, you figure out the focus, the theme, the name. 2, you draft out an ad for it. When and how and where will people submit it? How long is it going to be open? What are the maximum page counts? What are the topic requirements? Then, you just make sure that you're ready to accept submissions and that your submission form actually works, because that's something I've run into. And then you just post the ad everywhere. Boom. You wait until the submissions close, and then you close the form and start doing it. Easy peasy. You just knock it out step by step. It turns something overwhelming into something much more doable. And if you're struggling to break it down into steps, because, that's totally understandable, don't hesitate to look at how other people have done the same thing or similar things. And even just ask people for advice outright. It's not a competition, and most people you talk to are going to be thrilled to share their process with you. Projects and groups both have their own unique challenges and hurdles. You have different overarching things to consider for each. For projects, you uniquely have publication to keep in mind. This is especially relevant right now. You need to figure out how and where you're going to distribute whatever you're making, and you need to take into consideration the boundaries for the very publication options you have. I used to recommend itch.io, but given the takedowns the platform has been experiencing regarding anything NSFW, I don't know if I can suggest it in good faith anymore. Ko-fi has a similar problem where it also bans NSFW content. Really, you can consider distributing whatever you make through old-fashioned snail mail, or just hosting it on your own personal website, or selling it through Patreon, or using something like Proton Drive, which allows for the encrypted storage of even NSFW works, which Google Drive does not. For groups, you have moderation and longevity to keep in mind. You are going to be dealing with people for a long time. So set your rules up with that in mind and make guidelines to fail gracefully. While the idea of running a Discord or a forum in the exact same static way for forever sounds very noble and swag, it's not something that's actually literally possible. Set yourself up for success from the get-go and have rules, regulations, and plans in place for what to do when there are inevitable hiccups along the way, when you want to pass along your creation, or even when you want to sunset it entirely. Be fluid and not rigid when it comes to facing challenges. Rules are annoying to make up, but quintessential to making your space run smoothly. Think about the sort of environment you want to culture, not only in vibes, but in accessibility and use. What is and isn't allowed? Why? Do you allow for things like typing quirks, all caps, creative cursing? Do you allow your participants to speak in multiple languages in the main chat areas, even though that might be trickier to moderate if you have no fluent members on staff? Do you require content warnings? And if so, for what? Make sure that all your rules are clear and equally applied across the board. No invisible rules, no wibbly-wobbly rules. When you make changes, let people know promptly. Don't be afraid to look at other groups that you enjoy and see what you like and what you don't about them as points of inspiration. And if someone asks you a question about why a rule exists and you can't give a reasonable answer, don't lash out at them. Take it as a sign that you need to go back to the drawing board with your rules. Your rules will also be dictated by your leadership style. What do you prioritize in your group spaces? Are you hands-on for all moderation? Or do you prefer to be knee-deep in the techie bits? Do you interact regularly with your members, or stay mostly on the sidelines unless you have your mod hat on? How big or small is your staff team? What roles do they occupy? It is also critically important to stay humble and treat everyone fairly. No favoritism for your friends, no overbearing rules lawyering for your enemies. You cannot ban someone just because you don't like them, in the same way you can't let someone get away with breaking rules just because you do like them. It sets a horrible precedent, people will consider you untrustworthy, and people will fundamentally be less inclined to join your groups and projects moving forward. You are not a king, you are not a god, and you are not uniquely special for doing what you do. You're someone who started a Discord, a forum, a Tumblr community, a Reddit, a pack, whatever. You're providing the community with a service, and while that is something people shouldn't take for granted, that does not give you the right to be a petty tyrant, and that's something you can never forget. With the base building blocks for how to get started with literal aspects of community under your belt, it's time to move on to the next section of the lecture. Part 2, Building Intangible Community. The Alterhuman community is leaderless. You know this. I know this. You read the title of the presentation. But what does this actually mean? Look, we've got no secret council of elves dictating who is or isn't Alterhuman. There's no forbidden text for us to unearth from behind the veil with instructions to follow. A werewolf on a bear trap isn't going to bless us with the power to shapeshift and spontaneously combust at our enemies and problems. We've only got us, ourselves, and we. And let me be clear, that's objectively a good thing. We've got no leaders in the community, which means that everyone is equal. Everyone can and should leave tracks. But here's the thing. The Alterhuman community gives you back as much as you put into it. This creates the illusion of leadership, especially in active and long-term membership. Being highly skilled or respectable, or being popular by whatever metric you want to measure it, kind of results in the same thing. But neither is the actual same as being a leader or having inherent power. And you have to remember that. You're not above anybody else. You guys aren't leaders. But someday, you will be elders. And that's a fucking threat, because your homeboy isn't doing this forever. Which means that, like it or not, people are going to eventually look up to you with the same sparkles in their eyes that you look up to your favorite older Alterhuman with. Depending on the circumstances, some of them might already do that. This and other factors are things you need to learn how to operate around and regarding with your peers. It's kind of inevitable. Look to your metaphorical left. Look to your metaphorical right. The icons on all sides of you in the little audience section of the panel stage. The folks you see next to you, you're stuck with them. I can't emphasize it enough. We are not a large community by any metric. You are going to see the same people over and over and over again. You are going to make enemies. You are going to make friends. You are going to make enemies to friends and friends to enemies and back and forth and back and forth. This is just kind of the natural progression of things. But you need to know how to be chill. That is to say, you need to know how to be civil and be able to work with other folks in the community that you dislike. I'm not saying you have to do it, but you need to know how to do it. This panel is about building community, and you, my friends, are the ones who are going to be doing a lot of that building, advertently or inadvertently. When you open the doors to your groups and projects, or when you walk into them yourselves, you need to be able to smile at even the folks you have beef with. Not people who are straight up missing stairs or doing like real harm to others, but you need to be able to give a seat at the table to the one annoying guy you spent 15 months arguing with about whether it's pronounced the Rian or their Ian on like 3 separate Discord servers. Even if it's a hill that you're willing to die on, something that's like deeply important to you personally, you need to be able to recognize when it just isn't worth it. Now, the secret to intangible community building is relatively simple. Interaction and consistency. In order to build community, you need other people to be a part of it. In order to have other people in any group, space, project, subculture consistently, you can't be a passive force. You need to be interacting with them and with the environment at large, and you need to be doing it regularly. It is not a once-and-done type of deal. This applies to both the community at large and the individual spaces that we were previously talking about creating. In other words, you need to talk to people. Some of you are probably going, blah, easy shit page, #extrovert life. But while it might seem easy now, in 10 or 20 years down the line, it might not be. Here are some things that you should think about and start to process before they drag your willingness to participate in the community down through the center of the earth. First off, terms will change. You will feel like an out-of-touch old man. You will have to learn to live with it. Embrace curiosity. Don't stagnate. Be receptive to new information and to viewing old concepts in new frameworks. Next, if you don't want to see the same 15 fucking arguments in the community occur over and over again, you might have to be the one to bring up the new discussion. Prompt lists can be great for this, and you might even find that you enjoy passing along the talking stick between friends in that form, but if you're sitting around complaining that nothing new ever gets brought up in the community, bring up something new. In the community, things are liable to frustrate you. This is a completely normal experience to have. But part of cultivating a healthy atmosphere and, healthy metaphorical virtual sleepover is that you can't be a huge asshole about it. And if you are, you need to be able to apologize, which is an extremely important skill to develop. Sometimes, you just straight up need to be able to tell someone that you're sorry and mean it, even if it hurts your pride or you still kind of feel like you're in the right. Don't complain about how much you hate the community, stomp off, and then come back a few weeks or months or years later. No matter how frustrated you get or how tempting it seems, there are right ways to leave a community and wrong ways to leave one. This is the latter, and it's just going to leave you embittered and make people around you really doubt how reliable you are. Get yourself a friend group who you can talk to about Alterhumanity in a more controlled space than the wild west of the internet, and who you can vent to when you're pissed off. But also, don't let your relationships with other people wholly define your relationship to Alterhumanity as a concept. It's not uncommon for people to disappear into their own small friend groups and never be seen again. And doing this also risks what I said before about stagnating and not enjoying how the community evolves. But it's also not uncommon for people to have a huge blowout fight with a friend or someone else in the community, pack up their shit after years and years, and vanish without a trace. Don't let this be you. Your passion is the most important thing you can keep alive when engaging with the community. Passion is infectious, something I'm sure you guys have all realized at this other con and past other cons. Find what you love and revel in it. Drag other people into it. This is how community blossoms. We're all in this together, and we are never more together than when we're having a terrific time. That's the point. That's the point of being here and being alive and having a community at all. And if you can, take an active step in lighting that passion in others too. Inspire them. Encourage projects that you find exciting. Tell people how much you like what they do or how much you'd love to see them talk more about things they're clearly interested in. And don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Someday, you are going to have to be the one to inspire the newbie Alterhumans, because they'll need it, and you'll be the old reliable guy who's been in the community for 10 years and kind of seen a little bit of everything. You will say exactly the right things. Maybe you'll automatically know from having been told those same things in the past. Maybe your own experiences will influence what you want to tell them. Or maybe in that moment you won't know how to do it or what to say, but you'll still get the words right. I know this from experience, and I have absolute faith in every single one of you to be able to help encourage someone if they need it. Harness your passion. Encourage it in others. You can do it. And now, we get to the final part of the panel. Why you? Why am I telling you specifically all of this in a sequel panel 2 years later? Why does it matter? As the elders or future elders of the community building falls much more significantly onto your shoulders than it does for people who are brand new. This may either be something you already know, or something you're only just realizing now, with either dawning excitement or dawning horror, or maybe even an exciting mix of both. This is because you all have much more access to resources and knowledge than someone who only awakened a month ago. You've been to conventions, you've seen zines, maybe you've attended a howl or two. Whether you realize it or not, you've not only picked up on actual book-smart knowledge, but you've also picked up on the type of subcultural information that's never stated outright. Things like Therians being more shift-centric in their subculture historically, versus otherkin who tend to be more culture-focused or even magic-oriented. Stuff that no one's including in any FAQs, but which your animal hindbrain will recognize, or recognize the lack thereof, in the years to come. You might not think this is relevant to building community spaces, but trust me, knowing these types of things instinctively can make or break how successful your attempts to make and interact with these spaces are. You're here. You know the paths we tread. You know what you're doing, whether you realize it or not. And that just comes from existing here. There's also a much heavier and more relevant reason I'm telling you guys all this. Loss is inevitable. The projects you love won't last forever. The people you love in the community won't be here forever. This is a frankly horrifying fact of life to be confronted with, but it's true. Everything ends. When that happens, you might have to be the one to step up and make something to replace the important job or meaningful role that was filled in the community. Especially because newbies won't have ever known it to miss its existence in the first place. This is, to some degree, mitigated by the existence of the Wayback Machine, which preserves the writings of defunct websites like Project Shift and the Where Library, two staples of my own young Alterhumanity. But it's not a replacement for an actively updating and actively loved ongoing resource. And it's certainly no replacement for someone long gone who you found inspirational or pivotal to your own Alterhumanity. It's a sad fact, but please, if you take absolutely anything away from this lecture, please, please, please tell the people and the projects in the community that you admire and cherish what you think of them. Tell them now before you're looking back in 10 years and wishing you had. Take note of the things you like about them, the things they do well, the things you're glad they do. You won't always have a chance to, but you'll be glad you did. So much of what's been made only lives on in our memories. We, collectively as a community, have lost more than is possibly imaginable. In no small part because of the natural ephemeral nature of the internet, but also because of people letting their passion wither and drawing away. People leaving. People dying. People disappearing, their fates unknown. And that's why building community is so important. That's why continuing to create things together is so important. That's why knowing each other is so important. Because at the end of the day, all we have is each other. And if we don't have that, then were we ever here at all? If a tree falls in a forest and no one knows it, did the tree ever fall? Did the tree ever matter? Did the tree ever exist at all? It's one thing to say, yes, of course, and wax poetic about how we all matter on a cosmic level, to talk about the hypothetical and metaphorical of what a theoretical tree might have done or might have been. It's another to have the actual goddamn tree, to have prevented it from falling in the first place, or to at least have been able to appreciate it and know what it was. I don't know about you, but I would rather have the tree than the theoreticals of it, any day of the week. And with that, that's the end of my panel. As always, the images used in this panel were from the Mutant Standard emoji or from Pixabay. I'd like to give a huge shout out to my amazing partners, Thomas Shepard, House of Chimeras, and Orion Scribner, because without their love and support, I wouldn't be able to do stuff like this. I'd also like to thank my Patreon supporters, who help make work like this possible. And finally, I'd like to thank viewers like you. Thank you for joining me on this emotional roller coaster, and thank you for supporting what I do. As always, please remember the Q&A will be recorded. Please direct all questions to the #panelsquestion channel. And if you like what I do, consider supporting me on Ko-fi and Patreon. Alrighty. I'm just hopping on the panel questions channel and getting my cider stolen by my dragon boyfriend. Thank you. Poppy says, joke question, have you ever considered dropping the windows and pursuing motivational speaking? When I was younger, I did want to go into politics, but then I realized that that would require me to be a fucking shill. And thank you guys all for your comments. Logan asks, what do howls consist of? So a howl is a in real life meetup. Well, this says real life. An offline meetup. It's from the Therian community, specifically alt.horror.werewolves. Sometimes they're also referred to as a gather, as a hiss, as a roar. But basically, it's just an offline meetup of any, amount of Alterhumans. Howls consist of two things, ahs and woos. Yeah, Zai, that's true. Half serious question from Dosky. How do you make Alterhuman friends? I'm still trying to figure that one out. To be honest, what I do? I just talk to people. I just talk to people until they either become my friend or tell me to fuck off. That's the secret to making friends. Just hang out in spaces until you realize, oh man, XYZ person's cool. And then just talk to them more. DM them, invite them to your personal friend server. Things like that, honestly. Or if you have a local chat, like Orion runs Florida Alterhuman, we've done some meetups in person and made some really good friends from that. Shout out to Abraxas, who is, I know, in the chat. Like, so that can be another great way to make friends, too. Attending howls or just meetups. Just hang out, yeah. That's how easy it is. Mouse Teeth asks, how do you cope with the dawning horror of realizing you are becoming a big name? Sorry. It's a complicated question. Because there's a lot of layers to it, right? On one hand, it feels really good to be recognized by your community for the things you do for it. And sometimes that can be interpreted as becoming a big name, but I feel like big name is a misnomer. Like, it's not that, like, someone is a big name per se, it's that someone's just scrambling around the Alterhuman community constantly and everybody knows their face because they're everywhere. So, like, the dawning horror aspect can be like, oh god, I'm like the Crypt Keeper, I've been here for 10 years, which that's just coming to terms with the passage of time, it's inevitable. And then there's also the side of it where people can be kind of weird to you. People can expect you to be different than, like, who you are, or to not be bound by the same rules as other people. Whether they lionize you, or they try to tell you can't do certain things that you used to do in the past. And the only way to cope with that is to just kind of be like, I'm gonna ignore that. I'm not any different than I was 5 years ago in these aspects. I am not, big or strong or more powerful. You just kind of have to remember, no matter what, that you are just a little guy at the end of the day. And that really does help mitigate it. Like any horror or stuff. You're just a little guy going through the community alongside all the other little guys here. And that's kind of cool when you put it into that perspective. Holly/Doxion asks, hi, so I really like building community, especially Discord servers, but I have a bad past of being, let's just say, unstable with my relationships. How do you move on from such a past so people will trust you again? This kind of turns back to the, apologizing is a skill. I don't think we ever conceptualize it that way, but apologizing is a skill. And sometimes the first step to moving on from a past where maybe you were very, where, like, quote unquote, you called yourself unstable, where you maybe were lashing out at people or whatever happened, the first step is just to say sorry. The next step is to try and mitigate that from happening again. And to just prove that you're better than, you were 5 days ago, 5 weeks ago, 5 years ago. You can't, like, force people to interact with you. You cannot force someone to forgive you. All you can do is strive to be better every day and strive to show that to people. That maybe you've made mistakes, but you're giving it the good effort. Mazarin asks, what do you recommend for people who may not have a lot of time but still want to contribute? Just being here, like, that's, like, contributing can be building projects, but contributing can also just be being here for projects, if that makes sense. Like, your presence is inherently a valuable contribution, because you're talking with people, you're laughing with people, you're interacting with them. Even if you're not a staff member, you are still a fundamental building block in what makes this house a home, if that makes sense. So, just keep that in mind and don't feel pressured to, like, have to, like, burn yourself out trying to fit things into your schedule that won't work, or, like, that you have to do these huge things that you don't feel capable or interested in. You don't have to. Just being here is building intangible community and contributing. Hyena.exe asks, so as a new member of the Alterhuman community, where is the best place to start? I get really intimidated by all the different places and people. That is going to depend on you, I'm afraid. Like, I can give recommendations for where I've found the most comfort and fun in growing up in the Alterhuman community, but that's a very personal thing to kind of need to discover. I like the Tumblr Alterhuman community because we're all a bunch of argumentative assholes writing out essays and then kind of laughing about it months later. That appeals to me because I grew up discoursing on Tumblr. I also really like Dreamwidth because it has kind of a slow forum vibe. It's a lot more insular. That appeals to me. But, like, conventions like this are a great place to start. Tiny servers that are relevant to you are a great place to start, like how there are a bunch of Spear Pillar, the Pokemon server, was advertised in the advertisements channel. That'd be a good place to start for, like, Pokemon kin who are new to the community, for instance. Things like that. Like, some people I've heard really like the TikTok community. I don't have TikTok, can't vouch for it, don't know. Some people really like the Facebook communities. I got kicked out of there, so I also can't vouch for that. They did not like Theriomythics in 2015. There's also forums. I run Non-Human National Park. We're very small, but there's also, like, the Where List, for instance, which is still around. You just kind of have to poke your head around and look and enter these places and kind of get a feel for the vibe. And that'll, you know, make or break if you want to stay or if you want to go. Max asks, how would you archive things on Tumblr and other social media sites where comments and threads get deleted and moved around all the time? You don't and you cry about it? That's my experience? No, in my experience, the best way I've found to do it is to find a stable point on the reblog chain. Usually my own blog, to be quite honest with you, because I know I'm not going to delete my blog. Use the Wayback Machine extension, which I highly recommend to anyone here who's interested in archiving. Please get the Wayback Machine extension and set it to automatically archive every post you go to. In my experience, it has made my life so much fucking easier. And then I just kind of use those set anchor points and their Wayback Machine links to keep track of things. You can also save it to drafts, like Lav says. That is one way to keep track of something. But then you won't be able to, like, post it for other people necessarily. It can get kind of weird. But yeah, Dosky's going to go over more about the archival stuff tomorrow. Please go check out their panel. It's gonna be fantastic. Pigeon asks, this really presses the importance of archiving things again. It's one thing for, like, essays and informational pieces, but what about things like Tumblr or Discord discussions? Can those really be kept? Like I said, the Tumblr ones, at least there is a set website link. You know, there's an HTML file you can download. So that we can cover. It can be kind of annoying. Single file is great. I have single file. Highly recommend for downloading HTML. For Discord discussions, Discord is a major kind of black box in the Alterhuman community where things go in and things come out and we don't have records of how, like, a pink ball went in there and came out a, 20-foot mammoth or something in terms of how terminology evolves and changes. I've seen some folks, oh man, I want to say it's Allium House, but please don't quote me on that. I want to say I've seen Allium House do Discord archiving where you get people's permission to, like, take screenshots and make it into a formal, like, PDF and stuff like that. Like, I'm making a zine with a couple friends, actually, where we all wrote down our experiences of identity in a Discord chat, and I'm just turning it into a little booklet that we can, like, print out and have, and that's decorated. That's not going to be for public consumption anywhere, but, like, that's an example of something you can, like, do, and, like, something that if you got permission from everyone involved, you could have as being a public thing. But yeah, I'm sorry I don't have more suggestions for what to do about Discord archiving, because I'm just not very apt at it. Like, I have some things that I know I can do, but I am not extremely well versed in this. Goratrix asks, how do you deal with people insisting upon putting you on a pedestal and being intimidated by you? How do you make yourself disarming enough for people to treat you like just another creature? No gods, no kings, I'm just some guy. I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest.
I some people are always just going to do that.
Yeah, like Orion says, I think some people are always going to just do that, and there is no talking them down. Some people are always going to insist that you are more. All you can do is stay humble, which, Goratrix, I know you already do. No worries. And just talk to people. Like, geek out with people. Be very authentic with people. That's, I think, some of the ways that I've helped make friends with people who were intimidated by me in the past. Like, my Metamore bite count, who is probably in chat. I don't know. I haven't been reading the main chat. I'm sorry. My Metamore bite count, they told me that they were originally really intimidated by me, but then we became, really close friends, and now they're dating my husband, and I love them to death. And just from, like, geeking out and being dorks together, like, I feel like seeing someone at their dorkiest and seeing someone at their most passionate really brings them down to earth for, like, oh yeah, we are all the fucking same. Let's get in this goddamn ball pit. Fuck yeah. But yeah, like, you can't make people view you or feel a certain way about you, like I've said before, and this does kind of tie into that problem. You can only do so much. Just do what you can. And if people try to put you on a pedestal, just be like, no, I'm literally just some guy. I'm just some dude with the Discord server. I'm just some guy who writes. I just never shut up. Blah, blah, blah. You know how it is. Lupine asks, what's the etiquette for tracking down and talking to people who may not have been in the community for a while? Depends on how they leave, to be honest. That's my opinion. I'm sure Dosky will go over this more in their panel, but if someone left the community in a huge huff being like, fuck you guys, I hate all of you, you suck, I'm never going to identify as Alterhuman ever again, don't hunt them down. Don't hunt them down. They don't want to be hunted down. This is the same for people who take all of their stuff offline and disappear. Sometimes hunting them down is the wrong move to do, because if someone took everything offline, it's a sign they don't want to be bothered about it. I would... If someone has lines of communication open in online spaces, and they have not deleted everything related to the community publicly, I would take that as a sign that it's okay to reach out and talk with them. Or if they have an email posted somewhere. Like, email's very much less intrusive than a direct message, in my opinion, but I also am only, like, I'm just about to hit 30 in a few years, I'm old school. So, those are my thoughts on it. Basically, it's situational. It's by situation. You just kind of got to think it over. Lycaon asks, how do you keep energized to keep reaching out systematically? I tend to draw away at some point, disappearing in the background due to energy shit. Managing your battery is very important in the community because it's really extremely easy to get burnt out. That's just kind of a fact. We have very explosive arguments, and, like, when we get excited, we get really fucking excited, and, like, we're a lot as a community. I love us for it, but we are a lot. Honestly, the best way to keep energy, to get energy to keep reaching out systematically, is to just know when to take breaks and not do that. It sounds contradictory, but hear me out. You need to know your limits. You need to know when you're like, if I keep doing this, I'm going to be way too burnt out to participate in, like, the rest of the convention or something. Or I'm going to be really mad about this for whatever, and I'm going to be stewing about it, and it's going to take my spoons. Things like that. Sometimes you just gotta be like, man, I'm having a great time, but I'm wicked tired. I'm gonna leave now. Bye. I'll be back in a day, a week, a month, whatever. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You leaving temporarily is different, or, like, taking a hiatus even, if you're leaving for a longer period of time, is different than, like, leaving permanently. That's a totally normal and okay thing to do, and it's even healthy, I would say. I think everybody in the community should at some point take a hiatus and just be on their own for a little bit and then come back after a period of, like, just self-reflection, just being away from that influence. I think it's I think you don't have to worry about it. Just know when to take a break, basically, is how to keep the energy up. CrossFox Dragon asks, what do you recommend for someone who isn't very good at getting involved in large communities? I struggle to find things to contribute to conversations long term. If you don't like getting involved in large communities, you can just stick to small ones. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you find that you struggle to contribute to conversations long term. I guess what do you mean by long term would be my follow-up question. Do you mean like the same conversation for like an hour? Or do you mean the same topics for multiple years? Because, like, you're not obligated to do either, technically. If you want to, you can just kind of vibe and hang out and comment when you find it interesting and comment when, like, you find it relevant. You're not, obligated to contribute to conversations if you find it very difficult. But if you do want to, like, throw out new topics or things, I've found prompt lists very helpful to that, for me. Both, like, looking at other people's prompt lists and then, like, making my own, where I sit down and I'm like, what would I find really cool for other people to tell me about themselves? Like, what would I want to hear about from other people? I don't even think about myself in it. I just think about, like, what would be the coolest fucking thing to hear other people talk about? And then I write that down, and then I kind of turn it around, and that's been helpful. Logan, aren't these names a bit animal-centric? Well, the Therian community comes from the were community, which comes from the werewolf fandom. So yes. Yeah, it is animal-centric kind of at its core for older terminology because of that history. That's why gather is a alternative term that some people have used and proposed.
Gather comes from the otherkin community.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay. I love you. Thank you. Calixa asks, how does one organize an IRL howl or gather an IRL group of Alterhuman friends without doxing oneself? So, like, that's the thing. What's your definition of doxing? Because in order to organize an IRL howl, you are going to need to give a general, like, location for yourself to the other people involved. Usually, for howls, I really like Discords that are made for them, like Florida Alterhuman that Orion runs for Alterhumans in the southeastern United States. Or I like forums that have dedicated spots for organizing howls, where someone just asks, like, you know, hey, I live in, like, Miami-Dade County. Is there anybody else out there? And would you like to meet up at the Fort Lauderdale Museum of Discovery and Science or whatever? Like, you don't have to fully dox yourself. You basically just need to find a howl-oriented space. Or if you see people in the community that are from a specific location, you can make, like, a group chat and be like, hey, I noticed you guys all said that you're from Maine. Would you like to meet up for Brewer Pride, maybe? Or something like that. Mayror? Oh, I might be mispronouncing your name. I'm so sorry. Asks, how do you navigate community spaces where you may recognize bad actors / people you've had conflict with in the past? So, this is tricky, and it's also situational. You have to draw a line between... Okay, so it's a two-prong approach, right? Why are you in that community space specifically? Like, what's the purpose? Is it for fun and to hang out and to, like, vent off steam with your closest friends? Or is it a space like OtherCon, where there's 700 people all screaming about how much they like being Alterhuman? Because those two spaces are going to offer different navigational challenges. With OtherCon, you could probably just ignore them. With that close-knit community space, you may have to be like, hey, either you go or I go. And then also for, like, bad actors and people you've had conflict with, you need to know, like, what is the conflict is kind of the crux of the issue, right? Because, like I said, if you argued about this with this person about whether, like, Factkin is an opt-in or opt-out label for Alterhumanity, is that a hill worth, like, dying on? Probably not, especially if the argument was, like, old. But if it's someone who's, like, done actual real harm to you, like, doxed you, for instance, to use that reference, or threatened you, or tried to do bodily harm to you, or stalked you, or whatever, then that's a legitimate, like, danger. That's much more serious, you know, and that's kind of, like, where on the spectrum from dumb internet argument to, oh, man, this person could actually legitimately fuck up my life, are they? Because that's going to also change how you navigate a community space that harbors that person. Basically, stay safe. Don't be afraid to block people. But also realize when an argument is just kind of an internet argument too, versus something actually harmful. Dot asks, we were once in a server where the community culture was extremely centered around the server owner. We've managed to avoid this in the server we've been running for the past year or so, but how do we make sure it stays that way? We're worried about it happening because of our past experiences. In my opinion, one of the best ways to avoid this is to make sure that your server members feel very comfortable talking about themselves, talking about their own experiences, having their own, like, hobbies, things they do, things that they bring to kind of the melting pot. And to also make sure that you're not, projecting yourself as a level above them, or lionizing yourself, or putting yourself on a pedestal. Project yourself as just some guy, as one of the guys, and that will help avoid the problem. Distortion Carnival asks, how do you get out there when your species is surrounded with stigma? We're very sensitive to the sorts of jokes often made about our collective type. How do you grow thicker skin in case you're faced with the sort? So, I don't know how I can give advice on, like, quote-unquote growing thicker skin. Because some things are always going to bother you, and exposure to them, or logicking your way through them, isn't going to make them bother you any less. Right? For some people, that does work. You can give it a try, but for plenty of people, it just doesn't. You have to be brave in putting yourself out there, and you have to be able to also tell people who try to make that joke at you to fucking not, to tell them shut the fuck up. Or more politely, probably. And, like, it can also help if you enter a space and preface it with being like, hey, I'm, you know, this, please don't make jokes about that. I am kind of, I don't find that appropriate. But yeah, I don't have any advice on growing thicker skin, because sometimes things just straight up suck, and you shouldn't have to get over them, you know? It can be hard to be unbothered. Really, that kind of does come down to just knowing when to step away, knowing how to redirect your thoughts, knowing when to not get angry or upset at something that someone says because they're dumb. You know, if that makes sense? Akirlusha? Oh god, I've probably mispronounced your name horribly. I'm very sorry. Asks, seeing as this is about building a community, what is your take on the fact that we moved from websites and forums to Discord, which has basically broke the community down to private servers, locking information and welcoming groups that are inaccessible to those who don't know how to find it? I hate it! I fucking hate it! I would argue that the age of forums was also very, locked in terms of information, just as an archivist who is infinitely frustrated that there's so much information on forums that are defunct or that are only user accessible, but aren't accepting new users. So, like, this isn't identical, but it is kind of similar. And I hate it. I don't like it. I would much prefer that we all have personal, decentralized websites that can be easily archived. That is my hot take. I actually think that the renaissance of personal websites, especially in the last 5 years, which I honestly do attribute to OtherCon in many ways, is perhaps one of the most healthy things I have seen come up in our community for our community's collective health. I don't enjoy... I like Discords from a personal level, from a user level, But from an archive level, I hate them. They are awful. Join the Chiefs panel in half an hour to learn how to make a personal website, by the way. Do it. Do it.
Yeah.
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 Tasha asks, do you have any tips on how to find topics to talk about? Like, I want to put myself out there, and I have many thoughts about many topics, but just starting somewhere is often what puts me in a freeze. And then I end up not posting anything and just sit there and think things in my head, which is not the goal here. Prompt lists are your best friend. I stand by this. Prompt lists are so useful for finding topics to talk about. They're there. Pull from them. Eat them. Also, like, essays you really like, those can be great jumping off points, too, where if you see an essay on a certain topic and you're like, damn, I like that, I'm gonna talk about that topic, too. That's a good point, that's a good way to do it. We've done that before, where we've added onto a, many-person essay discussion with our own essay. That can be really fun. Otherwise, it really depends, like, sometimes, something that helps me find topics to talk about is just chatting with my friends in a VC, and, I've done this with, my partners specifically, where we'll record ourselves talking about a specific thing, or letting our conversation meander, and then I'll listen to it later on. I'll be like, oh shit, that was a really cool thing we talked about. I'm really glad we did. I want to expand on that in, like, an essay, or with them again, or whatever. Just, ask people before you record them, always. Unknown asks, what essays would you recommend to write about in the beginning? Whatever interests you the most. I cannot emphasize this enough. Whatever you find the most fun with. I know that there's a perception in the community that you should, at the beginning, write essays about how you awaken, how you discover yourself, what creatures you're debating. Fuck that. I didn't do that, and you don't have to either. Write about what you like. When I came into the community, I didn't write about anything but why anti-otherkin were fucking wrong and what I liked about the Alterhuman community. And I've never stopped since, and it's worked. You need to lean on your passion here. This is that thing where I was like, the most important thing is your passion. Having fun is the most important thing. Write about what interests you. Write about whether that is, like, you want to write about yourself, you want to write about your type, or your experiences, or your shifts, or, like, your questioning process. That's valid. That's totally cool. But if you want to write about how much you like this certain project, or what your dream project would look like, or what your ideal, like, Alterhuman community space would look like, or the ways the Alterhuman community frustrates the fucking shit out of you, or literally just have fun with it. Just do whatever you want forever. That was the point of all the last other cons. We're just right, and you can do whatever you want forever. Dogvoid asks, how does one tell the difference for themselves between reasonably trusting someone you're friends with or valuing someone experienced and picking favorites or idolizing? Like when looking for others' input or help in building a community space or working on a project. I mean, why? Here's the thing. When you're building a community space or working on a project, you don't have to limit it to just asking one person. In fact, I would say that a diversity of eyeballs on your project is always a good thing. So does it actually matter if this is just a friend who you trust the opinion of versus someone who's done this a million times before? Because I think you should have the opinion of both in the things you make. I think that they are both different but valuable thoughts. And oftentimes they can even overlap. Like, for telling the difference between those two factors, it just comes down to what have they done versus what haven't they done, I guess. Like, picking favorites versus idolizing. Like, I feel like if you like someone for the things they do, that's not picking favorites. And if they don't do something relevant, then you know that they don't do something relevant. Like, does that make sense? Maybe I am not making sense here, but I hope I'm making sense. Just ask multiple people, and then you won't have to worry. Boom. Easy. Alright, it is 1 p.m. I have not gotten through all the questions. Oh god. The next panel is at 1:30, correct, guys? 1:30?
In half an hour from now?
Half an hour? Okay.
I'm asking.
Yes, half an hour. Okay.
Yay.
I will go on for another 15 minutes, and then we're going to cut it off. Because I want to get ready for the next panel, because I really want to be there. Cross Fox Dragon asks, what do you recommend for someone who doesn't feel like they have a lot to contribute? I keep thinking about making a Tumblr or a Dream With, but I don't know what to talk about. Make it anyway. Fake it till you fucking make it. I have imposter syndrome constantly. You can ask Orion. For the last, month, I've been like, I've lost it! I've lost whatever made me good at anything ever! And they were like, no, you haven't. You're fine.
I think at those times, that can be a good time to share about other things in the community that you like. Give some exposure, feature things that other people created that you really like and appreciate. Give them some attention when you feel like your own mojo is running low. And that's a good way to kind of spread good feelings around, too.
Unknown asks, can I friend request you? Yes, you can. Glitter Pigeon asks, how to stay motivated when it feels like no one cares about your writing art? You have to care about your writing and art. You have to care about it. Make it because you care about it. Don't make it because other people care about it. Make it because you care. And have friends who are gonna cheer you on. That's how you stay motivated, by liking what you do and by having friends who will always support you. The only thing worse than writing for me is not writing. I fucking hate writing, but I fucking hate not writing so significantly more. Volta asks, what do you recommend to someone who keeps telling itself that it should talk in that kin server that it's been dormant in for years? I don't really know why, I just kind of stopped talking there when I joined another server. Go talk in there, right now. I'm telling you to. Do it. Go message, go drop a hi, go drop a hello, go drop a hey, are you guys at OtherCon if it's an Alterhuman server? Go. Do it. I'm telling you to. Do it and get back to me. Sephora asks, since I assume Oklahoma doesn't really count at Southeast, do you know of any Southern Alterhuman discords for IRL meets? Also, since we're around the same age, did you also grow up on PBS? I did not grow up on PBS, fun fact. I didn't watch much TV or movies as a kid. Is Oklahoma included in all Florida Alterhuman? I thought it was.
It should say in the advertisement, but it welcomes people who live outside of the Southeast, too. It's fine for you to come and hang out and be friends with people. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm sorry
I don't exclude anyone.
I don't have, a specific Oklahoma server. If you are an Oklahoman Alterhuman, drop a @ to Sephora34 in the chat.
There were a bunch of regional servers in the advertisement channel this year. I was really impressed to see lots of people working on local community. That's wonderful. And there's even there's 2 different Southeast Alterhuman servers. There's the one that I made because I didn't know about the other one, and then there's the other one that some other people just coincidentally made. And that's awesome. That's great. I'm glad there's lots of them.
Tasha asks, so wait, people will not be mad if I use inspiration from their essays? No, definitely not. Here's the thing. Here's the secret. You never ever plagiarize somebody's thesis for their essay. But you can be like, fuck, I love the topic they're talking about. I want to expand on it. I want to talk about it through a new framework. I want to look at it in my own light. I wrote a essay back in 18, I think, maybe 19, about my dysphoria as a transgender person and as a otherkin person. Because species dysphoria was very, very unpopular at that time. So I was like, fuck you, I'm writing an essay. That does not mean I own the concept of an essay about the intersections of gender dysphoria and species dysphoria. Other people could take that and be like, fuck, that's cool, I'm gonna go write about it. It's like that sort of thing, right? Or I had a specific essay about how pendulum kin readings in the Alterhuman community are a form of like micro-proselytizing, and they're fundamentally bad, and we don't need them. Somebody could take that and be like, you know what? I agree with this, and blank, 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 blank. You gotta add that and. You gotta spice it up. You gotta make it your own. Does that make sense? Military Industrial Furry Dragon asks, where can I find spaces that actually engage with some sort of Alterhuman theory/philosophy, outside of a few Therian and otherkin-specific forums, Orion Scribner's work? They're here. A few archived texts and about a dozen academic publications. All I find is communities that are just hanging out, or places with remarkably non-insightful works and unremarkable arguments. Dreamwith will be your best friend. Dreamwith will be your best friend. It is long, it has long-form writings on it. There's a fiction kind Dreamwith. I know that Orion has other canoes and also a writing Dreamwith that I forget the name of.
That one's not mine. There are some other ones though.
Okay, and there's also Animal Quills Dreamwith. Mm-hmm. There is at least one otherkin. No, it's not otherkin. It's Alterhuman. There's an Alterhuman Tumblr community dedicated to just like long-form writings. I think it's what is it called? I don't remember. I'm a part of it. I'm going on Tumblr 1 second. Wait, no, come on, Tumblr. You can load. I believe in you. The Alterhuman Experience community. That's the one I was thinking of. So, yeah, sometimes, You need to look to spaces that cultivate a longer form of discussion if you want a longer form of discussion. It's the general rule. Discords are inherently going to lean towards more casual conversation because of their instant messaging capabilities. Tumblr and Tumblr is a little bit better because it enables for longer posts. Dreamwith is like the dream, no pun intended. Blue Sky is not going to be helpful to you. Twitter is not going to be helpful to you because there's just no long form there. Those are like my recommendations. Dessler asks, question, unfortunately some social spaces are full of misinformation, such as, for example, TikTok's new take of Therians don't identify as animals, they identify with them. What can we do if we enjoy the format of these spaces and want to participate in them, but are faced with these situations? Like, how can we stay motivated to keep trying to help and educate others? Are some spaces too far gone? No. Some spaces are not too far gone. Here's the thing. You need a friend group to kind of vent when people are being, like, frustrating in your eyes. And that will tremendously help participating in places where people you find frustrating frequently pop up on your feed because of, like, an algorithm or argue with you. Embrace the block button. It is not illegal to block people. Love blocking people. Learn to love it. If someone pisses you off, don't lash out at them. Go vent. Come back. Block them. And just kind of enjoy the space for what it is. Recognize that, yeah, there's information, there's flaws, you're gonna be treading in that. But if you enjoy it for the format and you like what you're doing, just kind of gotta breathe and hold that in the forefront of your mind. It can be so easy to get bogged down with how, like, annoyed or angry you are at people. And you have to be able to have coping mechanisms for that, be able to let it go, be able to walk away, and be able to, like, just tell people, no, I'm not engaging in whatever the fuck you're saying to me. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Yeah. Knock asks, something I've been feeling is that I've been wanting to meet Alterhumans in meet space, and knowing them just online is not enough, so I'd like to ask your advice on this. Hell yeah, just do it. Join a howl. Find a Discord local to your region, or check through other cons' introductions and see if anyone mentions being in your region, or ask in the lobby, or lobby 1 or lobby 2. Basically, just ask people if they want to meet up, and then go meet up with them. We have tips for meeting up in You Are Not a Museum piece. You can find that recorded online. I'm not going to go into all the details here. The basics of it are, be safe, meet somewhere public, don't give out your home address or work address. Other than that, have fun, go wild. Will the panels be recorded? The answer is yes. Unknown asks, species dysphoria and other atypical forms of dysphoria need to be discussed more in Alterhuman circles. How would you recommend we talk about that? You just kind of gotta talk about it. That's, like, don't downplay anybody else's experience. Don't try to define people out of the experience. Make sure you're very careful about that. Just say your part. Say what you're experiencing. Say what you've seen, what you've talked. Be anecdotal. You can source statistics if you like, but, like, just talk from the heart. Just talk from the heart and be careful not to tread on anybody else, and you'll be fine. Yes, the Q&A will also be recorded. Boom! Okay, we got to the end of the questions channel. Woo!
Woo!
Has Paige already become a fox? I am not and have never been a fox. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen and others. Despite my frequently confused Tumblr icon, it is a dole. Whew, okay. You cannot kin assign me fox. Logan asks, how did you discover you were otherkin? In 2014, I just stumbled upon the term on Tumblr in just, like, passing, and I was like, wait a minute. And I spent the next 6 months researching it, especially through Orion Scribner's work and House of Chimera's work, but also through things like Jarendale's work, another otherkin's FAQ, stuff like that. And after 6 months, I was like, yeah, this me, and then I made the blog. I'm a weird little nerd at heart, what can I say? Arcade asks, how is Onion our Lord and Savior? She is asleep on the bed behind me. Fast asleep. Completely out, cold. Little baby kitten. Weird little nerds for the win. Okay. It's really crazy to me that I spent so long looking up to you when I also found the term /community in 2014 and you're only 2 to 3 years older than me. You're literally just some guy. I am literally just some guy.
That's the secret. We're all just some guys.
Yeah. Arcade, no, Onion probably does not still think you are a person coming to kill her when you wear a hat around her. She's getting over that, I hope. Vic asks, is there a place we can look for local house? Check out forums. Check out region-specific Discord servers like Florida Alterhuman. You can, that would be the places I would recommend. You can post, like, online to start a howl on your website and stuff too, but that's a little trickier. But yeah, generally I recommend things like forums, Discords. Oh, yeah, telegrams too. I forgot telegrams are a thing.
Traditionally, Therians hold howls on full moons, which today happens to be.
Oh, woo!
So I did hear when I was putting the word out about OtherCon to some small groups that wouldn't have heard about it. Some people were like, oh, we can't go because we have a howl scheduled for this weekend anyway. And it's like, wow, you guys sound like you're having a lot of fun.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this OtherCon. It is a treat, as always. Originally, I wasn't going to do a panel, but I am so glad I did. It is 1:14, about to be 1:15, so I am going to cede the stage and end this. Please go check out the rest of the panels today and the panels tomorrow. They are going to be fantastic. And I will catch you there.